All right, finally, the last section of this chapter. So, let's say you've gone through and you've figured out how to effectively express your emotions, which is wonderful. And sometimes you will come to a situation where you can't actually express your emotions constructively. You've made the decision. I guess I shouldn't say can't. You have made the decisions that at least at this point it's not a good idea to do that. So what you've got to do is figure out how to deal with or manage the emotions that you are feeling. So what we're going to do in this section is first look at the difference between facilitative and debilitative emotions. And then we're going to look at the idea of reappraisal, which we had already talked about, and situations where we should engage in reappraisal. Okay, so very simply, those of you who speak a Romance language, at least in French, facile is easy. So a facilitative emotion is an emotion that helps us. It helps us to function more easily. Right, so it contributes to effective functioning. A lot of times, so I'm a big proponent of positive psychology. And several of my colleagues, whether through ignorance or they're willfully misunderstanding me, they believe that to be positive means that you pretend that everything is fine. And that, everything's good, don't worry, be happy. And that is not the case at all. And the same thing with facilitative emotions. So if we think there's nothing exactly good or bad about an emotion, it just is. It tends to be the amount, the intensity and the duration that's an issue. So a little bit of anger or a little bit of irritation can actually be helpful because that is probably what pushes you to make changes. And students are always talking about how they like to wait to the last minute to get things done because they feel that adrenaline kick, that little bit of panic helps make them better. I don't personally believe it, but if that works for you, okay. So it's the same case here. All right. And just as a little bit of nervousness can boost someone's performance in, let's say, a speaking event, or I know I used to get very nervous before track meets. So on the other hand, sometimes emotions can be debilitative, which means they keep us from performing effectively. And the big difference between these two emotions has to do with the intensity and the duration. So, let's see. So, two people, John and Mary, both have been laid off from their job. And, after, a month of really being kind of distraught about it, John goes out, gets, starts looking for another job. But a month, 2 months, 3 months later, Mary is still sitting on the couch thinking how crappy her life is, that everything just sucks. Right? So for John, that feeling of, oh, this is terrible, most likely was facilitated because it propelled him out the door to look for other jobs. For Mary, it becomes debilitating because it lasted for a long time and it was very intense. And sometimes what happens with debilitative emotions is we can start to ruminate. So there's a word called rumination, which is where we keep going back over the same idea again and again. So this makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know if it'll help you understand it. But cows are a kind of animal that is called a ruminant. Because basically what happens is they chew and chew and chew on the grasses. And that's what we're doing, right? Or sometimes we're perseverating, right? We can't let it go. And that's when the emotions definitely become debilitative. So, Albert Ellis is he's still alive. He is a psychologist who has come up with something called the rational emotive approach. And basically his bottom line is It's our thoughts that cause our feelings. So, and that's the third bullet down, the beliefs that we hold. But I'm going to tell you something from a previous textbook that said some of what causes an emotion is our genetic makeup. There's some evidence that we're wired for more to be more of a more positive or a little bit more. We're wired to be more inclined to have debilitative emotions or not. Again, I'm not totally up to date on the research on this. I have to look it up. But there's also a part of our brain that's called the amygdala, and that's where the emotional memories are stored. And so basically what happens is if we've been through a situation, when you were a child, you were chased by a dog. So now when you see a dog, your amygdala goes, whoa, wait, danger, warning, this is a dog. So the amygdala can actually hijack our emotions. There's not an awful lot we can do about our genetic makeup or changing our brain, but what we can work on are the beliefs that we hold. So basically what Albert Ellis and I don't remember who the other Ellis is, have talked about is the idea that we can change the way we're feeling by changing how we interpret what we're feeling. Okay, so it's not the events that cause our emotions, but the beliefs that we hold about these events that cause our emotions. And people go, what? That doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, so my friend Carol retired, and I was helping set up at the party, and friend Barb said, Marguerite, go home. So let's say the belief I held was I have done something wrong. So how do I feel? I'm hurt. I'm embarrassed. I figure I'm not even going to come back for the party. Okay. Same situation. Carol's retiring. I've been helping set up. And Barb says, Marguerite, go home. And I think, I've been here. I got here before anyone else. I worked harder without a break. We're almost done. And I say, wow, my feeling is I'm pleased. I feel respected. All right. So do you understand how it's not the event that causes the feeling? It's this thing that's the column in the middle. It's the beliefs that we have about the event or the thoughts that we have about the event that are causing the feelings that we have. So there are many beliefs that we hold that can cause us to have skewed beliefs. We're calling them irrational thinking. And this irrational thinking can lead to debilitative emotions. I definitely want to work on this in class because I find this extremely important. So there are 7 fallacies that the book talks about. And fallacies means things that are false. So we have the fallacy of perfection, where we believe that we should be perfect. That if we are a worthwhile communicator, we will never make any mistakes. We will always be confident. Hello? Do you see how wrong that is? We can't be perfect. But if you hold on to this, you're going to constantly be in situations where you're saying, see, I knew you couldn't do it. You're supposed to be perfect, but you can't do it. Okay. The next one, the fallacy of approval, is where we want everyone to approve of us. Not thinking, well, some people will and some people won't, but everybody. So a couple of years ago, I was saying something to my husband about someone who's no longer at Tunxus, and I said, I don't think he likes me. It's like I want his approval. And my husband said, from what you've said, you don't like him. And I thought, well, that is true. So isn't it stupid that even people that we don't especially like, we still want them to approve of us? This could send us into a downward spiral of debilitative emotion. My favorite, I think, is the fallacy of should, where we believe instead of looking at what is, we look at the ideal. But it's our ideal, right? My brother and his issues with rain. It shouldn't rain this weekend. The weekends should be dry. Seriously? I mean, but he was so stuck on that if it was even cloudy on a Saturday, it would ruin his whole mood. We also have shoulds that we impose on ourselves. I should do this. Frequently, it's like, I should be perfect, right? But we also have shoulds that we impose on other people. Oh, so-and-so should know, Kathy should know that I don't like to drive all the way to her house. Have I ever told her? So there I am being all ticked off with her because she's asked me to come over, and I have never told her that I don't like the drive to her house. Okay, so that leads again, can lead to debilitative emotions. Okay, the fallacy of overgeneralization is frequently what happens is you do one little thing wrong and you go to like, I forgot to bring in the snack jar, and I go, oh, I'm such a terrible person, I forgot the snack jar. Really? From one small event, we generalize to an entire, this is my personality. Okay. We also, with overgeneralizations, if you are the person who likes to use the word always or never, you never listen to me. Really? Never? 100% of the time there's no listening going on? We're taking one instance, or maybe several, but we're overgeneralizing. Right? The next one is the fallacy of causation. Thinking that what you do causes other people's issues, or what other people do causes your issues. This is where we get to the I tell the story all the time about my husband taking his shoes off and putting them in front of the couch or in front of the computer or I don't know, in front of the stove. I still don't understand that one. Okay, and I would look at him and I'd say, you make me crazy. Seriously, nobody can actually force you to feel the way you do. When I was little, my older brother liked to take my hand and slap myself, and he would use it to hit me in the face, and he'd say, why are you hitting yourself? Right? This is what the fallacy of causation is. No one is saying, here, I'm going to shove anger or joy or irritation down your throats. We have to take responsibility for our own emotions. The second to the last one is the fallacy of hopelessness. Now, this is the Eeyore, right? Why bother? It's no good. Nothing's ever going to change. There's nothing that I can do about it. Okay. Which I think, that ties into we have to take responsibility for our own emotions. And honestly, if there is truly nothing that we can do about it, why are we spending time worrying about it? The last one is the fallacy of catastrophic expectations, which, as the textbook says, it's like Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will, where we go to the very worst case scenario. If I invite them to a party, they probably won't want to come. But just invite them. What's the worst that could happen? And we sometimes say to people, and they go to the absolute worst thing. Okay. So take a look at these 7 fallacies. Make sure you understand them. As I said, we're going to talk about them in class. And if you have questions, definitely bring them in so we can talk about these. So we all have debilitative emotions. That's just part of being human. How can we minimize these debilitative emotions? Well, one of them is to pay attention to how you're reacting and to say, is my reaction at the same level as the event? You know how when you're tired, everything seems, it's overly dramatic, everything is terrible, or everything is super funny. So, if you realize that how your reaction is out of proportion to what you just witnessed, try to take a step back. Okay. Also pay attention to what is it that triggered this debilitative emotion. And is it a specific person that pushes your buttons? Maybe you can avoid them. Is it a specific setting? That it's always on a Friday. Is it a certain kind of individual? Well, we'll talk about this, I forget which chapter, coming up. People who are absolutely sure that they know, I have a really hard time dealing with them. So that's someone who it just sends me off into the stratosphere. Are there certain topics of conversation that you know that as soon as we start talking about taxes, forget it? Like I told you, I had a colleague who used to talk about, as soon as she heard the word Walmart, that was it. She was off to the races. Okay. Pay attention to your self-talk. When it says record your self-talk, they're not asking you to actually, take out your phone and start recording yourself or even writing it down, but really pay attention to what you're saying. And then say, is what I'm saying accurate? Because what you're saying is going to indicate what your beliefs are. And once you know what you're saying, you can then start to dispute your irrational beliefs. And that can allow you to change your self-talk. So I wanted to show you this diagram from Albert Ellis, his ABCDE model. Now, we already talked about the A, the B, the C, right? The activating event, I'm at the party and I'm being told to go home. And the belief, I worked really hard. Well, let's do the negative one. They don't like me. What's the emotional consequences? I'm crushed. I knew they didn't like me. Okay. We need to do some reappraisal. Like, why would I'm disputing this self-defeating belief. Why would I think that I'm useless? I know I came here before everyone else. I know I've worked hard. I know I've contributed. Okay, so that's my reappraisal of this emotional event. And then the E, what's the effect? What's the consequence of challenging this self-defeating belief? Well, I'm going to come back for the party because I'm going to feel valued instead of unvalued. Is that the word? Disvalued? Unvalued. Instead of not being valued. Okay, so, think about this. It's easy to remember A, B, C, D, E if you can remember what all of the letters stand for. But basically, D is dispute your irrational beliefs so you can change your self-talk. And if you do, what's going to happen? Okay, so this is how we can go about minimizing debilitative emotions. But how can we maximize facilitative emotions? Okay, basically, when you have a positive emotional experience, really enjoy it. Take a step back and say, this was great. I like feeling good. When this happens, I feel really proud of myself. I'm happy. I feel valued, whatever it is. When you are in a situation that is less than supremely positive, see it as a chance for you to grow. What did you learn about this situation? I do not like to talk to this kind of people. This kind of people? This kind of person. So, okay, can you avoid this situation? Can you learn how to deal with this situation? Which is also a chance for you to focus on what you gained from this situation and not what you have lost from this situation. Kind of like, looking on the bright side. As I said, I hate when my mom tells me this, but if I tell it to myself, I tend to believe it. So for yourself, for other people, what you want to do is to choose compassion over contempt. Like, have compassion for yourself and for other people rather than being contemptuous. And practice gratitude. I thought I had typed it in, but I guess I didn't. There's a video that I would like you to watch called An Experiment in Gratitude. It's about 8 minutes, but it shows how we feel when we can tap into the positive emotions. Barbara Fredrickson's, joy, gratitude, serenity, interest, hope, pride, amusement, inspiration, awe, and love. Okay, so do you understand the difference between a facilitative emotion and a debilitative emotion? Do you have a sense of how people can use reappraisal to manage their emotions effectively? And personally, what's the area that you want to strengthen in managing your emotions? All right, and that was chapter 9. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in class.